Imagine working 80 hours a week. Do, like, everything right. You climb to the absolute top of your field. As a prestigious surgeon or a corporate lawyer, you have the title, the house, the respect of your peers. And then one day you realize you're still completely trapped.
Yeah, you're basically running on a treadmill.
Yeah.
And the moment you stop running, well, the money just stops flowing.
Exactly. Today we're dismantling the biggest lie society tells us about hard work. Welcome to the deep dive. We're exploring a really fascinating stack of sources for you today, mostly centered around the curated wisdom of the Almanack of Naval Ravikant.
Right, and we also have transcripts of interviews from the book's creator, Eric Jorgensen, and Naval himself. Our mission today is to crack the code on Naval's philosophy, which means unlearning almost everything you've been taught about work, decision-making, and success.
And just to be clear to you listening, this is not, some get-rich-quick scheme. It's about fundamentally restructuring how you view your time, your work, and your own peace of mind. We would provide you with a shortcut to understanding the actual mechanics of wealth creation.
And incredibly, how happiness itself is actually a trainable skill.
Okay, let's unpack this. Before you can actually achieve wealth, you have to stop chasing the wrong things. Right?
Yeah.
We need to completely redefine the ultimate goal.
Yeah, Naval draws a very sharp, almost ruthless distinction between three concepts that most people just blur together: wealth, money, and status. Wealth is having assets that earn while you sleep.
Right.
Money is just how we transfer wealth and time. He calls it social credits. And status is your place in the social hierarchy.
But wait, isn't status highly useful in the real world? I mean, playing the status game gets you into the right rooms. It gets your calls returned by investors. It seems kind of counterintuitive to completely dismiss it.
Well, it does have utility, but you have to understand the underlying mechanics of it. Status is fundamentally an ancient zero-sum game. For you to go up in status, someone else has to go down.
Like a monkey tribe politics.
Yeah.
Exactly. There is only one alpha. Wealth creation, on the other hand, is a positive-sum game. If you invent a new piece of technology, you aren't stealing value from anyone else, you're just baking a bigger pie for society.
But society constantly distracts us by pushing us to play those zero-sum status games, right? Which creates this psychological trap. What exactly is that trap?
So people who are deeply entrenched in the status game often attack wealth creation out of envy. They'll say, making money is evil, or they try to tear down people who are building things just to elevate their own moral status.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and secretly, that resentment blocks them from ever understanding the mechanics of wealth. By rejecting it to look good to their peers, they pretty much guarantee they'll never achieve it.
That completely flips the traditional model on its head. And I guess it explains why playing those status games keeps us trapped in a cycle of trading our time for money, like being on a golden hamster wheel.
That's a great way to visualize it. If you don't own equity, like a piece of a business, intellectual property, or a brand, you just don't capture the upside. You're being paid the bare minimum the market requires to keep renting out your hours.
It's like being a toll booth operator where you can only process one car at a time, no matter how much traffic is on the highway. True wealth means owning the highway itself.
Yes, exactly. Your inputs are just too closely tied to your outputs. Even a highly paid doctor is still a toll booth operator because they have to be physically present for every single surgery.
Okay, so if renting your time doesn't work and playing status games is a distraction, what exactly are you supposed to build or offer to society? Because obviously we aren't suggesting you quit your job tomorrow and just buy a tomato farm.
Right. No, it's not about immediately quitting. It's about shifting your mindset toward ownership. And the sources point to one core engine for this, which is your unique, untrainable skills. Naval calls this specific knowledge.
Untrainable skills, so knowledge that you just can't be formally trained for.
Exactly. Think about the underlying logic. If society can train you for it in a classroom, it can train someone else to do it too. And if someone else can be trained to do it, you can be replaced.
And the market is brutally efficient. If you can be replaced, they'll only pay you the minimum to replace you, no matter how hard you work.
Precisely. Naval says specific knowledge is found by pursuing your innate talents and your genuine curiosity. The ultimate asset test is that it feels like play to you, but it looks like work to everyone else.
There's that great anecdote in the source material about Naval as a teenager. He wanted to be an astrophysicist, thinking hard science was his path.
Right, but his mother noticed something entirely different. She pointed out that whenever they walked down the street, he was constantly critiquing how the local pizza parlors ran their businesses.
Yeah, like why they sold slices a certain way, or how their ordering process was totally flawed.
Exactly. His mother saw the pattern he was blind to. His specific knowledge was this natural, obsessive, analytical business curiosity. It emerged through his effortless habits, not a classroom.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Let's make this actionable for the listener. If you're sitting in a cuticle right now, how do you actually identify this? You can't just quit your accounting job and start auditing pizza parlors.
No, you have to become a forensic investigator of your own free time. Look at your internet browser history on a Sunday morning. What do you read about when no one is paying you to read it?
Well, that's a good metric. What topics do your friends naturally come to you for advice on?
Right. And often specific knowledge emerges at the edge of knowledge. It's found in highly technical or highly creative intersections. You might be an accountant, but maybe you have this bizarre obsession with the economics of the vintage guitar market.
So it's about combining foundations with weird obsessions. You need a rock-solid grasp of the basics, like math, microeconomics, psychology, so you aren't afraid of any new concept.
Yes, and then you follow your genuine curiosity to the absolute edge of what society currently understands. You basically become the best in the world at being exactly you.
Because society can't train a replacement for your specific intersection of curiosities.
Okay, but wait. Let's say you've found it. You've isolated that weird, obsessive, specific knowledge that feels like play to you. You still need a way to reach people, right?
Absolutely. Specific knowledge just sitting in your living room doesn't generate wealth. We need a way to scale it without just working more hours.
And that brings us to the concept of leverage. Force multipliers. Because to build wealth, you have to disconnect your inputs from your outputs.
Precisely. Naval outlines 3 distinct types of leverage, and understanding the friction involved in each is crucial. The first is labor, which means other humans working for you.
Which Naval actually says is the worst kind of leverage. I mean, it's incredibly messy. It requires tremendous leadership. You have to deal with HR, manage emotions.
Yeah, it's a heavily gate-kept form of leverage. The friction is massive. The second form is capital, or money. This was the dominant form of leverage in the 20th century. Think of Wall Street or Warren Buffett. It scales incredibly well, but again, it requires a gatekeeper. A bank or a venture capitalist has to actually give you the money.
Right, you are still reliant on someone else's approval to multiply your efforts. But the third type is where the entire paradigm shifts. Products with no marginal cost of replication. This means code and media.
Naval calls this permissionless leverage.
Yes. And let's define marginal cost for a second, because this is the engine of the modern economy. It just means the expense required to create one additional copy of something.
Like if you build a wooden chair, making a second one means buying more wood and paying a carpenter for more hours.
Exactly. But if you write a piece of software or record a podcast, the marginal cost of a second person downloading it is exactly $0.00.
You don't need anyone's permission to write a blog, record a video, or push code to GitHub. It's literally an army of robots working for you in a data center while you sleep. They never complain, and they never quit.
It is the great equalizer. You are capturing your specific knowledge into a product that can serve 1 million people with the exact same amount of effort it took to serve one.
It reminds me of the lumberjack analogy from the interviews. Imagine you're out in the woods, chopping firewood. With no tools, you're just picking up twigs with your bare hands. Zero leverage.
Right. Give someone an axe, and they can chop down a tree. Give them a chainsaw, they're dropping 10 trees an hour.
Give them a tractor, a crew, and an automated sawmill, and, well, you see where this goes. Leverage is simply doing the work that gets more work done.
And the historical shift this represents cannot be overstated. The old economy rewarded hard physical labor. Sweat equaled success. The new economy rewards leverage and judgment.
Because a leveraged worker can outproduce a non-leveraged worker by a factor of 10,000. But here's the danger. Doesn't that mean your mistakes are also multiplied 10,000 times?
Oh, absolutely. If you point that automated sawmill in the wrong direction, you destroy the entire forest in an afternoon. This is exactly why the highest paid skill in a leveraged economy is judgment.
Knowing the long-term consequences of your actions. Because a tiny miscalculation at the start sends you entirely off a cliff.
Exactly. The sources bring up the Warren Buffett model of decision-making. Spend a year deciding and a day acting, because that act lasts for decades.
Direction is far more important than speed. Running really fast in a random spiral just burns all your energy to go nowhere. You want to take one slow, deliberate step in the exact right direction.
And this need for judgment absolutely applies to who you surround yourself with. You have to play long-term games with long-term people. Compound interest applies to relationships and reputation, too.
Like the example of Elad Gil from the sources. He's an angel investor Naval loves doing deals with because Elad consistently bends over backward to build trust.
Right. If there's an unexpected extra cost in a deal, Elad pays it out of pocket and doesn't even mention it. He just rounds in Naval's favor.
And because he does it consistently over years, Naval sends him every single lucrative deal he finds. That trust compounds over decades into massive wealth for both of them.
It's a positive-sum game in action. But to find those 1% relationships, or that 1% of specific knowledge, you have to accept a harsh truth. 99% of your effort is going to be wasted.
Like going on 50 bad dates before you meet your spouse, or taking a geology class in college you never use again.
Yeah, in a strict, goal-oriented sense, it is wasted effort. The objective is to ruthlessly sift through the 99% to find the 1% that you can go all in on and apply compound interest to.
I have to challenge this, though. So what does this all mean for you? In a modern startup culture completely obsessed with moving fast and breaking things, isn't slowing down to make judgments a huge risk?
You have to separate physical speed from strategic velocity. When your actions are highly leveraged, a mere 10% difference in the accuracy of your judgment can mean hundreds of millions of dollars over the long run.
So how do we make those high-stakes decisions better?
Well, Naval introduces a brilliant heuristic. If you are evenly split on a difficult decision, take the path that is more painful in the short term.
Choose the pain. Why would you intentionally make things harder for yourself?
Because our neurochemistry heavily discounts future rewards in favor of immediate comfort. We are evolutionary wired for conflict avoidance. We naturally try to push off short-term pain, even if it sacrifices long-term compound gain.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so if two choices seem equally viable, one of them is almost certainly hiding long-term pain that your subconscious is trying to ignore. By leaning into the short-term pain, you cancel out your brain's bias and usually find the path of highest reward.
Like choosing to have a difficult conversation with a co-founder right now. Instead of letting a toxic dynamic simmer for 3 years, the short-term pain saves the company.
Precisely. It is a mental model that forces clarity.
Okay, so we've mapped out the external pursuit of wealth. Finding specific knowledge, applying permissionless leverage, compounding good judgment. And Naval says, let's get you rich first because money solves money problems.
Right, but it obviously doesn't solve internal problems. There are plenty of miserable billionaires out there. This seamlessly leads to mastering happiness.
Which Naval doesn't view as just a fleeting mood or a byproduct of external success. He views happiness as a highly trainable skill, just like fitness or nutrition.
Exactly. You don't just become physically fit by accident. You train your muscles. You train your capacity for happiness the exact same way.
He defines happiness primarily as not suffering, not desiring, really embracing the present moment. He says that desire is a contract you make with yourself to be unhappy until you get what you want.
Let that sink in. Desire is a contract to be unhappy. And in the modern world, especially with social media, we are constantly triggered to adopt new desires.
Yeah, you can scroll on your phone for 5 minutes and accidentally sign 500 contracts to be miserable because you don't have that specific car or that vacation.
It's a psychological trap designed to keep you dissatisfied. He talks about how our definition of freedom evolves over our lifespan. When you're young, you want freedom to do whatever you want, buy whatever you want.
But as you mature and achieve some of that, the goal shifts. It becomes freedom from your own reactions, freedom from anger, freedom from your own racing thoughts.
Yes, that evolution from external control to internal mastery is the core of his philosophy. Wealth gives you the freedom too, but only training your mind gives you the freedom from.
Wait, if we drop all our desires to achieve this freedom from, don't we just become totally passive? I still want to achieve things. How do we reconcile being ambitious with not suffering? I mean, don't I lose my motivation?
Naval resolves this exact paradox with a brilliant distinction. He says, peace is happiness at rest, and happiness is peace in motion.
Okay, explain that. How can you be peaceful in motion while pursuing a goal?
It is entirely possible to be deeply peaceful while pursuing an ambition, provided your attention is not fractured by 1,000 different wants. The suffering comes from the internal conflict of wanting everything at once.
Ah, I see.
The trick is to choose one overarching desire to focus your energy on, and ruthlessly let the rest go. You accept the suffering associated with that one chosen path, but you free yourself from the agonizing distraction of everything else.
Okay, let's bring this all together for you. We've gone on a massive journey today. We've combined the external pursuit of wealth,
Which is finding specific knowledge and applying permissionless leverage.
right, with the internal pursuit of happiness, which is managing your desires and achieving freedom from your own reactive mind.
It's a holistic system. Wealth gives you control of your time, and controlling your time gives you the space to train the skill of happiness. They feed into each other.
So here is your practical roadmap, your immediate takeaway from today's deep dive. First, value your time at a strict hourly rate. Ruthlessly outsource or ignore things below it. Second, actively catch yourself playing status games and opt out.
And third, treat happiness like a skill you practice. Audit your desires and drop the ones that aren't your singular focus. And remember, direction matters far more than speed.
I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. Naval once said that if he lost absolutely all of his money and was dropped on a random street in any English-speaking country, he would be wealthy again in 5 to 10 years. Why? Because wealth isn't the money in the bank. It's the skill set in his head.
A deep understanding of leverage, judgment, and value creation.
Exactly. So ask yourself, if you lost everything today, what is the specific knowledge you possess right now that no one could ever take away from you?